everyone. Welcome back for a very special edition of Collider Dailies, because a lot of you already know who this individual is. One of my favorite people in this business, on this planet. Erlanger, I am so happy to welcome you back to this YouTube channel with another movie.
Thank you so much. You're also one of my favorite people on the planet, so I'm very happy to be here with you.
We're here today talking about your upcoming movie, The Piper. I have a little synopsis, just in case anyone out there does not know what The Piper is about. It stars Charlotte Hope as a composer who must finish her late mentor's concerto. In the process, she discovers that playing its music summons deadly consequences. Solid logline right there. I like it. Sparks the intrigue right away. I wanted to start with a question, though, that kind of bridges the gap between your past work and The Piper, mainly because I want people out there to seek out all of your work after they watch The Piper. So, two-part question for you, A. First, can you name something that you did on a past film that you found coming in handy on The Piper and making something ambitious easier? But then I also want to know a first you experienced as a filmmaker while making The Piper.
Okay. Yes. So, I mean, yeah, the two films that I had made previously before The Piper were Child Eater, which you are quite familiar with. And then I made a film called The Rift in Iceland. And both of those films were very small. They were, low budget, shot in, a short amount of time, but both, quite ambitious. And I think, what I learned most of all from having made those films is how to kind of plan your day, to maximize what you can get out of it. And I think, always when you make a film, like, whether, you storyboard or shot list, you always know, like, you're not going to get everything maybe that you want. Like you things will come up that you can't foresee, but the more you plan, the better you are equipped to kind of face, whatever odd thing comes up. When you have to kind of make a decision with no time to think about it, you have to know your film like inside out. You have to know exactly what you need and how to kind of get through it. And I think having made those two films before really kind of set me up in a good way for making The Piper, where I could, maximize my time on shooting that.
Makes all the sense in the world. I love in The Piper seeing like little echoes in particular of Child Eater. Of course, for anyone out there who doesn't know, I produced Child Eater. It was the first thing we did when we graduated film school. But the Piper's hands reminded me of Robert Bowery's hands. Yes. It was just, but to the point where, like, not even on the movie, like, I vividly remember the first time Fiona showed us those hands, and yes, it brings me right back to that moment.
Exactly. And it's like, I think for me, I'm still scared of the same things. So I think, I kind of bring a lot of my old baggage with me, in every project, hopefully. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some echoes from Child Eater to The Piper for sure.
I love seeing that in your work. So, yeah. So that was something from past films that helped on The Piper. Then can you give me The Piper first, some challenge that came up that you've never tackled before?
Well, I mean, I guess like the big thing in The Piper that was, a lot of fun to tackle, but also very complicated, was having to film with like a full symphony orchestra, having them play live while we're shooting a piece of music that had just been finished, like Christopher Young had just finished composing like days before. Get them to rehearse, get them to know it by heart, and then, film them with all the camera moves and all the effects that we were doing around it. I didn't make it easy for myself, I think, kind of putting all that stuff into the climax of the film. But I think, wrangling a bigger production, a bigger team, that was something that I had not done on the other two movies. And, you always, when you have, a symphony orchestra or 500 extras or whatever, you also have to lean a lot on your crew, like your AD and, the production people, the PAs. And, thankfully, like I said, we had prepared super well. So things kind of, they all worked out. There were some, hiccups along the way, but we got everything we needed. And I think it looks pretty awesome.
When are there not hiccups though? And
Right.
in all honesty, I really do think that if a film set doesn't have hiccups, you're probably not making something bold and special. So then what's the
Yes.
point?
Exactly. And you have to be open to the, what destiny brings you. Sometimes things just happen, and oftentimes, like they happen for a good reason, and you just kind of have to go with it and accept it.
Okay, I ask about that a lot. I'll throw this question to you. Can you give us an example of a time when things weren't going the way you had originally planned, but you found unexpected magic in the process?
In the process, that is a good question. I mean, yes, one thing for sure, like a big thing, and I don't want to spoil too much, but the climax of the film was written differently. There was supposed to be like a huge fire, and like the whole theater that they're in at the end was supposed to burn down, and that was in the script for a very long time. It was only like a few weeks before production where when we kind of figured out that we couldn't, we weren't going to be able to do it in a way that would be look cool or feel good for the movie. So even though that didn't happen like on the day of shooting, it still happened like with very little prep time. So I think that night I kind of just I went back to my hotel and like went to bed and just like closed my eyes and just kind of, okay, what can we do? And then I came up with this, what's the opposite of fire? It's ice. So, I came up with this whole thing of like, the two kind of worlds merging and, snowing inside the theater. And I think, visually it looks really awesome. And I'm very proud of that solution. But at the moment when they told me like, you have to come up with something else, that was not a fun day.
That also brought me immediately back to running through the woods on Child Eater and throwing feathers in the air.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, and I kind of having done that, I knew like, we had done like a similar thing on Child Eater, and I knew it was going to look awesome. And I knew, this is a different thing, but like, it gives the film this kind of fairy tale feeling that I really love.
And you lean into that a lot in general. Like you're really good and definitely have the creative brain for that kind of storytelling, which I love. Going back to like my original framing, because you brought up Child Eater, you brought up Rift. I just want everyone out there to know that you also wrote Midnight Kiss, which you well know is one that I think is like above and beyond the best installment of Into the Dark, just like such high quality storytelling. So everyone make sure to check that out as well. In all of your movies, you have very, very strong leads. So now I want to ask you about working with Charlotte, especially because any lead role in a movie is demanding, but I feel like being a horror lead is a very particular kind of demanding. So when you met her, what was it about her that signaled to you that she would indeed be the right fit for the role of Mel, but also that she would be able to, play the way one needs to in this crazy horror space?
Well, I mean, I think Charlotte, she's so much fun in general. She's quite not that Mel isn't fun, but like Charlotte is a very light person. But when I first met her, I could immediately, I could see she has like this inner strength. She has like that kind of determination and focus that, when you kind of start talking about, craft or like how to build a character, like she's so in on it. And I could immediately just see like, she has that thing that Mel needs, which is that kind of drive and that focus that, initially for the character becomes, kind of a bad thing. She kind of gets lost in the process of the work, but she also needs that same drive and focus to kind of battle the demon by the end of it. And she was just like such a, lovely person. And she had like a vision for the character, and she was really into the story. And, we really just hit it off immediately. I mean, she was, once we met, I immediately knew like, oh, she is Mel, like she has to do this. And I'm very happy that she agreed to do it.
She really is something else. We were talking earlier. I've seen the movie 2 times, and both times I was especially taken by just like how naturally captivating she is and what a strong anchor for this whole story she is. So, job incredibly well done for both of you. Of course, I need to highlight the legendary Julian Sands and his work in the film as well. So, can you tell me something about him that made him a one-of-a-kind collaborator? Maybe even something about the way he works that helped you elevate your own expectations for your work?
Yeah, I mean, Julian was, such a great guy. And, when we first met, and, it was via Zoom, this was, we were filming kind of in the middle of COVID and everything. And he had read the script. He really loved the script, but he wanted to, meet with me and see how I was like, auditioning me. I wasn't really, we had offered it to him, but he needed to know like what he was getting himself into. And what he told me in that meeting, that I feel like, that's something that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life, is that when he works, he wants to, embark on an adventure. He wants to have an adventure, and he wants to work with people that kind of make life adventurous and fun and exciting and magical. And he kind of had seen that in the script, that, okay, there's something here that that I can kind of, bite into. And then, when he met with me, at the end of that meeting, he was like, you are a person that I want to go on an adventure with. And I thought that was such a lovely way to kind of put everything into perspective, because, making movies is hard and it's challenging, but you also have to, look at it from, it is an adventure. I'm living my dream. I'm making movies. I'm making, these things. I'm going to countries that I maybe would never go to. Working with all these amazing people, and you have to kind of remind yourself in the chaos of everything, that how amazing it is. And I feel like Julian, he had so much experience, and he's been working for such a long time. But he was able to kind of, I could look at him, when we were shooting things and, we were behind schedule or anything, like I would just look at Julian, and he would just kind of give me like a little nod and just a look. And it would just make me feel calm and like, okay, we're in this together. We're going to, do this in the best way that we can. And it's going to be great. And so that's one thing that I'll take with me for the rest of my career and my life, for sure.
What a beautiful answer there. All right, before we wind down the Piper section of our show, I wanted to add, you've probably seen me ask this question because I keep clipping it out on social media. It is my new favorite question. It puts everyone on the spot, so nobody likes it. But the premise of the question is the fact that nobody in this industry says good job to themselves nearly enough. So I want to know something you accomplish on the Piper specifically that you'll be able to look back on and say, wow, I am so proud of what I did there.
Well, I mean, there's a few things, but I think the thing that I really want to shout out and that I'm so proud of is, I'm going to preface the answer by kind of giving you a little background about how the film came to be. So I used to work for the Icelandic Symphony Orchestra a long, long time ago, and I've always been into classical music. And I always, having worked there, I wanted to do something that was kind of set in that world and music focused. But I always knew, when I was writing this film that, it's going to kind of live or die depending on how effective the music in it is. And when I got to work with Christopher Young, who has been one of my idols for such a long time, I mean, first of all, that was a dream come true. But then to have him write this amazing piece of music that we, both, he worked super hard on, but, we really collaborated on kind of, every piece of it. And, that's probably the proudest, the thing that I'm the most proud of in the film is just how great the music is and kind of how effective it is. And that collaboration, I think is for me a highlight for sure.
You should be really proud of that. I can confirm, even after just one viewing, that tune, that melody becomes an earworm just the way it needs. And then also in the larger concerto, when it plays in that, like it rattles you to your core. Like you could hear that kind of like mesmerizing quality to it, but there's also like a really sinister booming nature to it that, I don't know, it does everything it needs to all at once. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. And I know Christopher is super proud of it, and so yeah, it's it was very challenging and it was very difficult, but it ended up being amazing.
So well worth all the work that went into it. For everybody out there, now that you want to see The Piper, you can in a number of locations, actually. It's in theaters, and then also it's available on digital and on demand on March 8th. So lots of places to check it out. Do go watch it and enjoy it. Erlanger, you are kind enough to indulge the Collider Dailies format and talk about one news story before we let you go. And,
yes.
And I got a big one for you. I'm very excited about this. So we've known for a little while that Jason Blum and Blumhouse were interested in getting into the Friday the 13th franchise. They want to make one. Of course, there's the rights dispute with that franchise, which is still getting ironed out and making everything a bit difficult. But I recently spoke to Jason Blum for his new movie, Imaginary, and he still expressed a whole lot of interest in making a new Friday the 13th film. The specific quote was, or actually I should tee it up with the question I asked him, because like, you know how it is in this business. When you have a producer like Jason, they've got on their IMDb page like a mile-long list of in-development titles. So rather than go after just one, I asked him, if you had the opportunity to snap your fingers and greenlight the title of your choice, what would you pick? And he said, Friday the 13th is what I would do. It's not a Blumhouse project, but I'm trying to will it into being one. It's just a piece of IP I've always loved. And then here's the interesting new wrinkle that I love. He went on to say, and James Wan and Atomic Monster are very passionate about it. And I think we would have them shepherd it for us. That would be a lot of fun. So two-part question. One, what do you think about a new Friday the 13th movie landing at Blumhouse? And then also, what do you think James Wan and Atomic Monster could bring to a new Friday the 13th film?
Well, I mean, yeah, to answer the first question, I'm very excited if this happens. I mean, and, from the sound of it, it's likely to happen. Or, I think if anybody can will something into existence, it's Jason Blum. So I think, yeah, that would be great. I think we're long overdue for a new Friday the 13th film. I think it's definitely like it's a timeless concept, really. And to me, I think Friday, what the cool thing about Friday the 13th is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel necessarily. I mean, I'm sure they'll come up with some interesting kind of spin on it or a twist on it, but I think what people want out of that franchise is kills and Jason and, some excitement. And so I think they'll do a great job. James Wan being involved, that's also very exciting. He's been, somebody that I've looked up to since, the Saw days. And he has, he's been able to kind of reinvent the wheel in a number of genres or subgenres within the horror genre many times. So yeah, I can't even begin to imagine. I'm sure James Wan has, a whole lot of great ideas. I don't even know. I mean, what do you think? What?
I'm so excited. I mean, really. And I feel like some people are out there are maybe thinking like, what? Like, why would you be so excited about another one when, there's been maybe bumps in the road or some subpar installments of other franchises that Blumhouse has done? And I mean, that's kind of like par for the course with this industry. Like nobody sets out with the intention of making a not so great movie, but sometimes everything aligns and works really well. And sometimes it doesn't. I do really trust James Wan, the Atomic Monster team, Jason Blum, and the folks at Blumhouse, because I feel like those companies are made up of horror lovers and like people who are coming at these new installments from like a place of true passion. So I do trust them with this particular property. Of course, we have the TV series coming out too. I mean, that I think the rights issue is a little different with that, but I would believe that what you said is true. If anyone could fix that whole, web of issues, it's Jason Blum. And I do think that the combo of Blumhouse and Atomic Monster could be the ideal mix. The thing I'd be most curious about is, would James Wan direct or would he just produce? And I think there's great potential pursuing both avenues. One, because obviously James Wan is an incredible director. I'll trust him with any property he wants to touch. But also, he's doing a pretty good job of finding newer voices in the horror space and giving them opportunities that they wouldn't get otherwise. So I'm pretty confident he'd be able to find a great fit to direct a Friday the 13th movie. So I'm into it all around.
What excites me, like whether he directs it or not, if you just look at, the life that he kind of injected into the haunted house genre, like with The Conjuring and with Insidious, that's very, what would he do with a slasher film? Like, I think that's just we kind of got kind of a taste of it with Malignant, which is, I guess you could call it a slasher film in its own way, but I find it, it's a very fun thought experiment what he's going to do with Friday the 13th.
One of the first things that just crossed my mind as you were saying that is, like, what would he do with Friday the 13th? I wonder if maybe they would have it lean more like horror action. And then my mind went to a frequent James Wan collaborator in Leigh Whannell, because between like Upgrade and some of the sequences in Invisible Man, I feel like that would suit his skill set. So now I'm just creating my little dream package here. But a James Wan produced Friday the 13th film with Leigh Whannell at the helm, I kind of love that idea now.
Yeah, it would be like a burst of energy, I think, no matter what. So I think we're in for a good time for sure, the audience.
I'm here for it. And I'm here for the Piper as well. Yes. Erlanger, congratulations yet again. Thank you for joining us for Collider Dailies and sharing some of your experience making the movie.
Thank you so much, Perry. Always a pleasure.
To everybody out there, thank you for watching this edition of Collider Dailies. Another reminder, you can watch The Piper in theaters or on digital on demand on March 8th. Check it out and stay tuned. We'll have a brand new edition of Collider Dailies for you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific.